A simple hug from a kind stranger changed a billionaire's life and his daughter's forever. Ethan Rivers was a man who had everything: money, fame, power, and a name everyone respected. But what he didn't have was time. His company, Rivers Enterprises, was one of the biggest in the country, and his days were filled with meetings, deals, and phone calls that never seemed to stop. He had built an empire, but in doing so, he had built walls around his own heart. Since his wife Grace passed away 3 years ago, Ethan's life had turned cold and mechanical. Every morning, he woke up before dawn, left for work, and came back after his daughter Lily was asleep. Lily was only 6 years old, a bright and curious little girl who loved to draw, sing, and ask endless questions. She had her mother's soft brown hair and gentle eyes, and every time Ethan looked at her, he saw the woman he had lost. That made it even harder for him. So, without realizing it, he started avoiding those moments: her laughter, her stories, her little drawings, all reminders of what used to be. Her nannies and tutors took care of her, but none could fill the space her mother left, nor the space Ethan had abandoned. One Saturday morning, Ethan's assistant reminded him about a charity meeting scheduled for that day. But when Lily came running into his office, holding a crayon drawing of a park and 2 stick figures holding hands, something inside him shifted. "Daddy, can we go play today?" she asked, her small voice full of hope. He stared at the picture. One of the stick figures had a smile and a tie. The other wore a pink dress. Beneath it, in shaky handwriting, she had written "Me and Daddy." Ethan felt a lump in his throat. Maybe for the first time in months, he canceled a meeting. "All right, Pumpkin," he said quietly. "Let's go somewhere special today." He wanted to take her to an exclusive club or a private playground, somewhere elegant, so quiet, suitable for a billionaire's daughter. But Lily shook her head. "I want to go to the park near the cafe," she said excitedly. "They have swings and ice cream." Ethan hesitated. The cafe she was talking about wasn't a fancy place. It was a small, cozy cafe near the edge of the city park, a place full of families, children, and ordinary people. But when he saw her eyes shining with excitement, he agreed. The drive was silent at first. Ethan sat in the back of his sleek black car, scrolling through business emails, while Lily pressed her face against the window, watching trees and children pass by. She hummed a song softly, one her mother used to sing. Ethan looked up for a moment, feeling a strange ache in his chest. He quickly looked away, pretending to check his phone again. When they arrived at the cafe, the smell of fresh coffee and baked bread filled the air. The place was busy. Laughter, chatter, and the sounds of spoons clinking against mugs made it feel alive. A young waitress approached their table with a bright smile. Her name tag read Emma. She had kind eyes and a warm energy that made people instantly comfortable. "Good afternoon. What can I get for you and your little princess?" she asked cheerfully. Lily giggled at the word princess. Ethan ordered coffee and a muffin. Lily ordered strawberry ice cream and hot chocolate with extra marshmallows. Emma smiled at her, "Coming right up, sweetheart," and winked playfully. Lily blushed and giggled again. Ethan watched quietly, slightly surprised. There was something about the waitress, a natural kindness that made even strangers feel seen, while waiting for the order. Lily fidgeted in her seat. "Daddy, can I go play?" she asked, pointing at the small playground just outside the cafe's window. Ethan hesitated, checking his phone again. "Just for a little while," he said finally. "Stay where I can see you." Lily squealed and ran off, her tiny shoes tapping on the floor as she rushed toward the swings. Ethan sat back, sipping his coffee, watching her play from afar. He noticed how easily she smiled, how free she looked. For a brief second, he wondered when he had last laughed like that. Then his phone buzzed, an email from his board of directors. Instinctively, he started typing a reply. Business was his comfort zone, his escape. Emma returned with their order, placing the plate and cup neatly on the table. She glanced outside and smiled. "Your daughter's adorable," she said softly. Ethan looked up, a little caught off guard. "Yes," he said after a pause. She's everything." His tone carried both pride and guilt, and Emma noticed it. She didn't say anything. But she felt something in that quiet moment, a man who had lost touch with his own heart. Outside, Lily swung higher and higher, her laughter echoing across the playground. A little boy ran past, and she waved at him, carefree and joyful. But then, in a blink, the swing jerked forward too hard, and she lost her balance. There was a sharp cry as she fell onto the ground. Ethan's head snapped up instantly. For a second, he froze. Panic gripped him, his heart thudding. Before he could even stand, Emma dropped the tray she was holding and rushed out of the cafe. She knelt beside Lily, gently lifting her into her arms. Hey, you're okay," she whispered softly. Lily was crying, holding her scraped knee, but Emma hugged her tight, brushing away her tears with calm, motherly care. "It's just a little boo-boo. You're brave, aren't you?" she said with a smile. Ethan finally reached them, his breath uneven. Seeing his daughter in someone else's arms, comforted by a stranger, hit him harder than he expected. Emma looked up and said, "She's fine, just a small scrape." Her voice was steady and kind. Ethan nodded, his throat tight. He watched as Emma gently helped Lily stand, then guided her to a bench nearby. Lily clung to Emma's hand, trusting her completely. In that simple, small moment, something shifted in Ethan's world. He wasn't used to people rushing to help without reason. In his world of power and money, kindness usually came with a price tag. But Emma hadn't cared who he was. She just cared that a little girl was hurt. Watching her calm Lily with such tenderness reminded him painfully of Grace. His wife had been like that too, soft but strong, always putting love before anything else. As Emma cleaned Lily's knee with a tissue and a small first aid kit from the cafe, Ethan stood silently, feeling a mix of gratitude and shame. Gratitude that someone had been there for his daughter when he froze. Shame that it hadn't been him. When Lily smiled again, holding Emma's hand tightly, Ethan realized something simple but powerful. He might be one of the richest men in the city, but he had forgotten how to give the most priceless thing of all, love and presence. And though he didn't know it yet, that one small act of kindness, a waitress hugging his daughter, was about to change both of their lives forever. Ethan stood there for a few seconds, his heart still racing. The sound of his daughter's cry echoed in his mind even though she was already smiling again in Emma's arms. He had never seen anyone move so fast. Emma didn't even think for a second before running to help. Her apron was covered in dust, her knees a little dirty from kneeling on the ground, but she didn't seem to care. All that mattered to her in that moment was calming the scared little girl who had fallen. Lily sniffled and held on to Emma tightly. "It hurts," she said in a trembling voice. Emma smiled softly and brushed away her tears with gentle fingers. "I know, sweetheart, but you're very brave. See, it's just a tiny scrape. You'll be running again in no time." She spoke in such a calm and soothing tone that even Ethan, watching from a step away, felt a strange sense of peace. Ethan wanted to speak, to thank her, but the words didn't come out. His throat felt dry. It had been years since anyone had shown him kindness without expecting something in return. He had forgotten what genuine care looked like. Emma stood up carefully, still holding Lily's hand. "Let's go clean this up, okay?" she said softly. She led Lily to a nearby bench and asked another waitress to bring a first aid kit. Ethan followed silently, feeling a heavy mix of guilt and relief. He had been sitting right there, just a few meters away, but it hadn't been him who ran to help his own daughter. It was a stranger, a woman who didn't even know them. When the other waitress brought the small box, Emma took out an antiseptic wipe and a bandage. "This might sting a little," she told Lily kindly, "but it'll make you feel better." Lily nodded bravely and squeezed Emma's hand as the wipe touched her knee. Her little face twisted for a second, then relaxed. Emma smiled and said, "See? I told you, super brave." She placed the bandage carefully and gave it a gentle pat. All done. Ethan finally found his voice. "Thank you," he said quietly. His tone was soft but sincere. Emma looked up at him and smiled, brushing her hair back behind her ear. "It's all right," she said. Any parent would have done the same. Those words hit Ethan harder than he expected. Any parent would have done the same. But he hadn't. He had frozen. His mind had gone blank while his daughter was crying. The guilt grew heavier in his chest. He looked at Lily, who was now smiling again, talking to Emma about her favorite swings and the strawberry ice cream she wanted. She looked completely at ease, as if she had known Emma for years. Lily reached out and hugged Emma again before letting go. "Thank you," she said in her small, sweet voice. "You're really nice." Emma laughed softly. "You're welcome, sweetheart. Just be careful next time, okay?" They walked back to their table together. Emma helped Lily into her seat and brought her a fresh cup of hot chocolate with extra marshmallows. "On the house," she said, winking. "A reward for being brave." Lily grinned wide and clapped her hands happily. Ethan stared at the cup, then at Emma. "You didn't have to do that," he said. "You've already done more than enough." Emma shook her head. "It's nothing," she said, with a small smile. "Kids fall all the time. It's part of growing up." Ethan studied her face for a moment. There was no sign of fear, no awkwardness about talking to him, even though she might have guessed who he was. Most people either tried to impress him or treated him carefully because of his status. But Emma was just being herself, simple, kind, and real. He leaned back in his chair as she walked away to serve another table. His mind wandered. He remembered Grace, how she used to run to Lily when she was still a baby, how she'd blow on tiny scrapes to make the pain fly away. Grace had always known how to comfort their daughter. Ethan realized painfully that he didn't. Lily was sipping her hot chocolate happily when she said, "Daddy, can we come here again tomorrow? I like Emma. She's really nice." Ethan smiled faintly and nodded. "We'll see, Pumpkin." But deep down, he already knew he wanted to come back. When they finished, Ethan went to the counter to pay the bill. Emma was wiping down the counter with a cloth. "Thank you again," he said quietly. She smiled and handed him the receipt. "It's really nothing, sir. I'm just glad she's okay." He hesitated before asking, "Do you have children?" She nodded. "A son. He's 8. Keeps me on my toes every day." Her smile turned a little wistful. "Kids are amazing, aren't they? They fall, cry, and then get up like nothing happened. I wish adults were like that." Ethan found himself smiling too. "Yes, you're right," he said softly. There was something in her tone, a quiet strength. He could tell life hadn't been easy for her, yet she carried herself with grace and warmth. When he walked back to the car with Lily, his thoughts were still on Emma. Her words echoed in his mind. He wondered what kind of life she lived, what challenges she faced every day, and how she still found it in her heart to comfort others so easily. He looked down at Lily, who was holding his hand and skipping beside him, completely back to her cheerful self. "Daddy," she said suddenly, "you didn't hug me when I fell." The words hit him like a soft but painful blow. He stopped walking for a moment, then crouched down to her level. "You're right," he said quietly. "I should have." "I'm sorry, sweetheart." He pulled her into a hug, holding her tightly. Lily giggled, wrapping her tiny arms around his neck. "It's okay, Daddy," she said with a smile. Emma hugged me. He smiled faintly, but inside he felt a deep ache. It wasn't jealousy, it was realization. A stranger had given his daughter the comfort he should have given, and somehow that simple hug had done something he couldn't explain. It had opened a small door inside him that had been closed for years. That night, after putting Lily to bed, Ethan sat in his home office, the lights dim. His laptop screen glowed with unread emails, but he didn't open any. Instead, he kept seeing Emma's face, her calm smile, the way she knelt on the ground without hesitation, the warmth in her voice when she spoke to Lily. He thought about how different she was from everyone else around him. No masks, no motives, just real compassion. He realized that he had been living in a world made of glass, beautiful on the outside, but hollow inside. That brief moment in the park, watching a waitress hug his daughter, had cracked that glass just a little. For the first time in a long while, he didn't want to think about profits or deals. He wanted to think about people, about Lily, and maybe even about the woman who had reminded him what humanity looked like. As he turned off the light and looked out the window at the quiet city below, Ethan made a silent promise to himself. He didn't know exactly how or when, but he would find a way to thank Emma properly. Not just with money, but with something real. Because deep inside, he knew she had done more than comfort his daughter. She had awakened a part of him that he thought was gone forever. Ethan couldn't get the image out of his mind, the way Emma had run to Lily's side the moment she fell. How she had knelt on the ground without hesitation, and how naturally she comforted his daughter as if she had been doing it all her life. That small act of kindness kept replaying in his thoughts, not just because it had saved Lily from her fright, but because it had awakened something in him he hadn't felt in years. There was a softness, a warmth, a human touch, that he realized he had been missing not just in his own life, but in the way he treated Lily. A few days after the playground incident, Ethan decided to take a rare break from his hectic schedule. The work of running an empire was relentless, and for someone like him, even a moment of quiet was unusual. Yet, he found himself craving something simpler, something real. Lily had been talking nonstop about the cafe and Emma, describing the way she had helped her and the funny little things Emma did to make her laugh. Her excitement was contagious. Ethan realized that this woman, who had no idea how important she had become to them, had touched his daughter's life in a way he couldn't replace with gifts or money. So, on a bright Friday morning, Ethan suggested to Lily, "How about we go out for a treat?" Lily's face lit up immediately. "Yes. Can we go to the cafe again?" she asked eagerly, bouncing in her chair. Ethan smiled softly. "Of course. We can go there." He didn't tell her that he wanted to see Emma tonight because of anything romantic, but because he wanted to witness that kindness again, to understand how someone like her could make such a difference in just a few moments. When they arrived at the cafe, the warm smell of fresh coffee and pastries greeted them, and the sound of children laughing and families chatting filled the room. Emma was behind the counter, taking orders with her usual cheerful energy. The moment she noticed Lily, she dropped her pen and walked toward her, her face lighting up with surprise and delight. "Well, look who's here. My brave little princess," she exclaimed. Lily ran to her immediately and hugged her tightly. "Emma, I missed you," she shouted. Ethan couldn't help but smile at the sight. It was unlike anything he had seen in his structured, business-focused life, a spontaneous, heartfelt connection that had no agenda, no hidden motive. Emma knelt to Lily's level and ruffled her hair gently. "I saved some extra marshmallows just for you," she said. Making Lily squeal in delight, Ethan approached the counter and said politely, "We wanted to stop by." "My daughter has been talking about your hot chocolate all week," Emma laughed softly. "It must be the marshmallows," she replied with a wink. "They have magic powers." While Lily enjoyed her hot chocolate, Ethan observed Emma carefully. He noticed the faint lines of tiredness on her face, the subtle weariness behind her cheerful smile. She worked long hours, yet her energy never seemed to waver when it came to the children. Ethan felt an odd admiration for her. In a world where most people cared more about appearances and personal gain, Emma's dedication and warmth were rare. Lily, eager to show Emma something, pulled out a drawing she had made the night before. It depicted the playground with 3 figures: Lily, Ethan, and Emma. "That's you," Lily said proudly, pointing at the figure in a blue dress. "You helped me when I fell." Emma's eyes softened, and she smiled warmly. "That's the nicest picture anyone's ever made of me," she said. Lily beamed, and Ethan couldn't help but feel a quiet pride watching his daughter express her affection so freely. Ethan and Emma began to talk for a few minutes while Lily played nearby with some crayons. He asked about her life, and she told him that she was a single mother, raising an 8-year-old boy named Noah. "He's always keeping me on my toes," she said with a laugh. "Some days are really hard, but when I see him smile, I forget all the struggles." Ethan listened quietly, struck by her strength. Here was a woman who had faced life's challenges with courage and patience, who had learned to find joy in small moments, and yet never lost her heart. He reflected on his own life, how he had buried himself in work after losing grace, and how he had missed out on so many small, beautiful moments with Lily. Emma, with her simple, honest care, had shown him what he had been missing. Lily interrupted, tugging at Emma's hand. "Emma, you should come to our house. We have a big garden and a swing set." Emma laughed softly. "That's very sweet, Lily, but I don't think your daddy would like strangers visiting," she said gently. Ethan, feeling a rare impulse, said, "You're not a stranger anymore." Emma looked at him, slightly surprised, then smiled. That simple acknowledgement, so ordinary to some, carried weight for both of them. It meant that she had earned a place in their little world. Even if just for a moment, they continued talking, with Lily occasionally joining in. Ethan discovered more about Emma's son, about how she managed her job and motherhood, and about the small joys that kept her going. He noticed that she didn't complain about her struggles. She simply faced them with quiet determination and warmth. In her, Ethan saw a reflection of the love and care that Grace had shown, and he realized how much he had neglected those qualities in his own life. When it was finally time to leave, Lily hugged Emma tightly. "Bye, Emma. I'll come back soon," she said eagerly. Emma hugged her back, smiling warmly. "I'll be waiting," she said. As they walked back to the car, Ethan glanced down at Lily. "You really like her, don't you?" he asked. "She's like Mommy," Lily said simply. "She makes everything feel nice." The words struck Ethan deeply. It wasn't jealousy that he felt, nor any romantic notion. It was the recognition that someone had entered their lives and reminded them what it meant to care, to connect, to be present. That day, he realized that Emma had done something far beyond what money or power could ever accomplish. She had reminded him of the human side of life he had almost forgotten: the warmth, the connection, the little moments that mattered most. Later that night, Ethan sat in his office, the lights dim, his laptop untouched. Instead of opening emails or making business calls, he thought about the small cafe, about Emma's kind smile, and about Lily's laughter. He realized that she hadn't changed his life with anything grand or expensive. She had done it through something simple: kindness, patience, and genuine care. For the first time in years, Ethan felt something stirring inside him: desire to be better, to reconnect with Lily, to bring more humanity into his life. He didn't know exactly how or when it would happen, but he knew that the afternoon at the cafe had started a chain of change. Emma had unknowingly opened a door in his heart, one that had been closed since Grace's death, and as he looked out at the quiet city lights that night, he silently promised himself that he would find a way to thank her. Not with money, not with influence, but in a way that truly mattered. Because she hadn't just helped his daughter, she had reminded him of what it meant to be a father, a man, and a human being. The next morning, Ethan woke up with a new determination. He wanted to spend more time with Lily, to be present, to be involved. And though he couldn't yet imagine the full impact this small act of kindness would have, he felt ready to embrace it. Emma had changed the way he saw the world, showing him that even in the busiest, most complicated lives, there was always room for love, care, and human connection. In the days that followed, Ethan and Lily returned to the cafe often. Each visit deepened the bond between them and Emma. Ethan found himself learning something new every time: about patience, about joy, about how little moments could carry great meaning. Emma never pushed him to feel anything. She simply lived her life with sincerity, and in doing so, inspired a man who had forgotten how to truly live. By the end of those weeks, Ethan realized something powerful. He had found not just a friend for Lily, but a teacher for himself. Emma had shown him that true influence wasn't measured in wealth or power. It was measured in kindness, in the ability to touch hearts, and in the courage to be fully human. And as he held Lily's hand walking home from the cafe one afternoon, he knew their lives would never be the same again. Ethan couldn't stop thinking about Emma. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her smile, her gentle way of comforting Lily, and the warmth that seemed to radiate from her. It wasn't just the kindness she had shown his daughter, it was how naturally she did it, without expecting anything in return. Ethan realized that in his own life, he had become used to efficiency, transactions, and calculated actions. Everything he did had a purpose, a result, or a profit. But Emma's actions reminded him of something he had almost forgotten: the simple power of being present, of truly caring for someone. That weekend, Ethan decided to take Lily out again. this time without a plan. Without any schedule, just to be with her. They walked to the park, the same park where Lily had fallen a few days ago. And Ethan noticed how freely she ran, swinging and laughing without a care in the world. He watched her and felt a pang of guilt. How many days, weeks, months had he missed seeing her like this? How many times had he been too busy to play, to listen, to simply be there? The thought made his chest ache. As Lily ran toward the swings, Ethan felt a strange mix of fear and determination. He wanted to be the parent she needed, to be someone who could protect her, comfort her, and make her feel safe. Yet he realized that he didn't know how. His mind, so used to handling board meetings and business crises, lanked when it came to simple human moments like a child falling or needing comfort. He had always relied on others' nannies, teachers, caretakers to bridge the gap. But now he understood that nothing could replace him being there. That evening, Ethan brought Lily to the cafe again. Emma was there, organizing cups behind the counter when she saw them. Her eyes lit up and Lily ran to her, hugging her tightly. "I missed you, Emma," she said, her voice full of excitement. Emma smiled warmly. "I missed you too, Pumpkin. How are my brave little warrior's knees today?" Lily giggled. "All better." Ethan watched quietly, feeling the familiar mix of admiration and shame. He had thought of coming back to the cafe to see Emma, but now that he was here, seeing the way she cared for his daughter so naturally, he realized he wanted to be a better father, a better person. He wanted to learn from her, to understand what it meant to be fully present for Lily. Over the next few days, Ethan tried small changes in his life. He started arriving home earlier, spending more time reading with Lily, and even helping her with little chores and play activities. At first, it felt awkward. He wasn't used to slowing down, to letting go of control, to being a part of something as simple as a tea party or a swing ride. But he persisted. Each moment spent with Lily was a moment he cherished more than any boardroom victory or business deal. One afternoon, Ethan noticed how Emma interacted with the other children in the cafe. She didn't just serve them. She listened to them, laughed with them, and encouraged them. She treated every child as important, as someone whose feelings mattered. Ethan realized that this was what he had been missing in his relationship with Lily. He had been so focused on providing for her materially that he had forgotten to provide what she really needed: attention, care, and emotional connection. Lily, of course, noticed the difference. She was happier, more playful, and more confident. "Daddy, can we stay a little longer?" she asked one day, pointing to the playground. Ethan nodded. He felt a quiet joy watching her climb, swing, and run. Knowing that he was finally there to cheer her on, to catch her if she fell, and to share in her laughter. One evening, as Ethan tucked Lily into bed, she looked up at him with bright eyes. "Daddy, I like when you play with me. You make everything fun." Ethan smiled softly, holding her close. "I'm glad, sweetheart. I promise I'll always try to be here." Those words felt heavier than any business promise he had ever made. They were a promise to be a parent, a protector, and a guide. Meanwhile, Ethan's thoughts kept returning to Emma. He had learned small details about her life, how she worked double shifts to provide for her son. Noah, how she managed the little challenges of a single parent, and how she still found time to show kindness to strangers. It struck him how different her world was from his own, yet how much he could learn from her. He decided to invite Emma for a small coffee break at the cafe, while it was less busy. Lily insisted that Emma sit with them, and after a moment of hesitation, she agreed. Sitting together, Ethan realized that Emma's presence had a calming effect, not just on Lily, but on him. She spoke softly, listened carefully, and laughed warmly. She didn't talk about money, status, or power. She talked about real things: children, challenges, dreams, and simple joys. Ethan found himself opening up more than he expected. He told Emma about his regrets, about how he had missed so many moments with Lily, and about how he wanted to change. Emma listened without judgment, nodding and offering quiet encouragement. "It's never too late," she said simply. "Kids are resilient, and so are parents, even when you think you failed." Her words resonated deeply. Ethan realized that he had been punishing himself for years, focusing on guilt rather than action. Seeing Lily's happiness and Emma's patience gave him the courage to start making real changes. He didn't just want to be present physically. He wanted to be emotionally involved. He wanted Lily to feel safe, loved, and valued, not just as the daughter of a billionaire, but as a child who deserved attention and care. As the weeks went by, Ethan's bond with Lily grew stronger. He joined her at the playground, helping her swing higher, cheering when she climbed the monkey bars, and laughing at her jokes. He spent evenings reading bedtime stories, sometimes making them up as he went, much to Lily's delight. He even started cooking small meals with her, laughing when the kitchen turned into a mess. These simple moments, which he had once considered trivial, became the highlights of his days. Emma continued to be a quiet presence in their lives. She never imposed herself, but her kindness and example had a lasting effect. Ethan found that watching her interact with Lily and the other children taught him patience, empathy, and the value of small gestures. He began to understand that being a parent wasn't about providing wealth or luxury. It was about showing up, caring, and being a consistent presence. One afternoon, after spending hours at the playground with Lily, Ethan sat on a bench. Watching her run toward Emma, he felt a wave of gratitude and humility. This woman, who had started as a stranger, had become a teacher in the most unexpected way. She had shown him how to connect with his daughter, how to be present, and how to find joy in the small, fleeting moments of life. That night, as he sat alone in his office, Ethan reflected on everything he had learned. The lessons weren't in business strategies or investments. They were in warmth, empathy, and human connection. He realized that the true wealth in life wasn't money. It was relationships, love, and the ability to be there for someone who needed you. Emma had changed more than Lily's day. She had changed Ethan's perspective on life. He no longer wanted to hide behind work or distractions. He wanted to be a father who mattered, a man who could care deeply, and someone who could learn from the quiet wisdom of others. He also knew that he couldn't do it alone. He would need to continue learning, observing, and opening his heart to moments of kindness. Just as Emma had shown him, by the end of the week, Ethan made a promise to himself. He would prioritize Lily, nurture her happiness, and never take her presence for granted again. He would embrace the lessons of patience, empathy, and genuine care that Emma had shown, not just as a guide for Lily, but as a guide for himself. In that quiet, transformative period, Ethan understood that life's most important lessons often come from unexpected sources. Emma, a simple waitress with a kind heart, had illuminated the path he had been too busy to see. And though he didn't yet know what the future held, he was determined to walk it differently, with love, presence, and courage, inspired by the small, extraordinary moments of compassion he had witnessed. Ethan had spent weeks quietly observing, reflecting, and learning from Emma's example. Every time he watched her interact with Lily, he felt a mix of admiration and humility. Emma didn't do anything extraordinary. She wasn't performing miracles. She wasn't seeking attention, but in her simple, genuine care, Ethan saw lessons he had missed his whole life. It struck him that true kindness wasn't about recognition, reward, or even effort. It was about presence, attention, and heart. And more than anything, he wanted to bring that same presence into Lily's life. One morning, as Ethan was going through some routine work at his office, his assistant handed him a note. It was from Emma. She had written a short message asking if it would be possible to meet. Quietly, after the cafe's closing hours, Ethan felt a flutter of anticipation. He wasn't sure what the note meant, but he had learned to trust these small signs of connection. He agreed and set a time for later that evening. When he arrived at the cafe after closing, the place was quiet and dimly lit. The usual chatter replaced by a peaceful stillness. Emma was there wiping down tables. She looked up as he entered, her face lighting up with a warm smile. "You came," she said softly. Ethan nodded. "Yes, I wanted to talk." Privately, they sat across from each other at one of the corner tables. For a moment, silence filled the room. Ethan took a deep breath, trying to organize his thoughts. He had been thinking about this moment for days, but didn't quite know how to express the flood of gratitude and respect he felt toward her. "Emma," he began slowly, "I want to thank you, not just for helping Lily, but for showing me something I had almost forgotten, for reminding me what it means to be present, to care, to love without conditions." Emma's eyes softened. "It was nothing," she said quietly. "You don't need to thank me. Anyone who loves their child would do the same." Ethan shook his head. "No, you don't understand. I froze when Lily fell. I wasn't there for her. You were. And in doing that, you changed more than her. You've changed me. You've reminded me how to be a father again." His voice shook slightly, and for the first time in a long while, he let a small piece of his vulnerability show. Emma looked at him with quiet respect. "I can see that," she said. "I see how much you care, even if you've been distracted. You're trying now, and that matters more than anything else." Ethan's thoughts then drifted to her son, Noah. He remembered the little stories she had shared about him, the long hours she worked to support him, the sacrifices she had made, and the constant juggling she endured to make sure he had everything he needed. Ethan had been silently moved by her resilience and commitment. He knew she worked hard to provide a stable life for Noah, but he also realized that even her strength had limits. He wanted to do something meaningful, to help her without making her feel like charity was being offered. "Emma," he said finally, his voice steady, "I know you've been carrying a lot. Your son, he deserves the best care, and I want to help make that possible. You've done more than anyone can ask for, and I want to support you not as charity, but as gratitude. You've changed my life and my daughter's life. Let me change yours in some small way." Emma blinked, taken aback. She had never expected such an offer. She opened her mouth to protest, but Ethan continued, "I don't want this to feel like pity. You're strong, brave, and capable. I just want to ease the weight you carry, so that you can focus on what matters most, your son, and your happiness. You deserve that." Tears welled up in Emma's eyes, and she looked down at her hands. I don't know what to say," she whispered. "I never expected. I never imagined." She paused, taking a deep breath, then looked up at him. "Thank you, truly, not just for this, but for everything. For seeing me." Ethan nodded quietly, feeling a warmth that had nothing to do with money or power. He realized that this was the kind of impact he wanted to have in the world. Through business deals or headlines, but through genuine acts of care and humanity. After that evening, life began to change for all of them. Ethan continued to spend more time with Lily, joining her at the park, helping with homework, and even reading bedtime stories that he had invented himself. Each small act was a step toward rebuilding the bond he had almost lost forever. Lily thrived under his attention, becoming more confident, happier, and filled with laughter that had been absent for too long. Emma's life also changed, quietly but profoundly. With Ethan's help, she was able to secure better medical care. For Noah, providing peace of mind she had not experienced in years. She also moved into a safer, more comfortable apartment, which made a significant difference in their daily life.
Oh.
Despite all of this, Emma remained humble and kind, never letting the help change the core of who she was. She continued to care for children at the cafe, still offering smiles, warmth, and guidance to anyone who needed it. Ethan watched all of this with quiet pride and deep respect. He saw how a single act of kindness, given without expectation, could ripple out in ways he had never imagined. Emma had taught him that the simplest gestures, a hug, a kind word, a moment of attention, could hold more power than wealth or influence. And he vowed to continue learning from her example, to be a better father, a better person, and a man who could carry kindness forward in his own life. One afternoon, as Lily and Ethan walked past the cafe, Lily skipped ahead and waved at Emma. "Hi, Emma. Look, Daddy." She's waving back. Ethan smiled, his heart full. He realized that life's true value wasn't measured in profits, titles, or possessions. It was measured in moments of connection, in the love shared between people, and in the courage to show care even when it seemed small or insignificant. That evening, after tucking Lily into bed, Ethan sat quietly, reflecting on everything that had happened. He thought about Grace, about the life he had lost, and about the new path he was creating for himself and his daughter. He understood now. That happiness wasn't something to chase or buy. It was something to nurture in the hearts of those you loved. Emma had reminded him of that in the most profound and unexpected way. In the weeks that followed, their lives became more intertwined. Ethan found ways to support Emma and Noah discreetly, ensuring they had opportunities they couldn't have afforded before, but always without taking away their dignity. Lily's laughter filled their home more than ever, and Ethan felt a sense of peace that he hadn't experienced in years. The bond between father and daughter grew stronger each day, built not just on love, but on trust, presence, and shared moments of joy. Emma continued her work at the cafe, but now with less stress and more time to focus on her son. She had gained more than just financial security. She'd gained recognition and respect from someone who truly understood her worth. Ethan had quietly given her the tools to breathe a little easier, to feel less burdened, and to continue being the extraordinary person she had always been. One quiet evening, Ethan sat on the balcony of his home, watching the city lights twinkle below. Lily's laughter echoed faintly from her room. He thought of Emma and Noah, of the day at the playground, and of how a simple hug had changed the course of their lives. He realized that life's most meaningful moments were often the smallest ones. The ones that seemed insignificant at first, but carried the power to transform hearts. Ethan smiled to himself, feeling gratitude and humility. He had been reminded of the importance of love, presence, and kindness, and he had vowed to carry these lessons forward in every aspect of his life. Emma hadn't just helped his daughter. She had helped him rediscover himself, and in that he found the greatest gift of all, the knowledge that one small act of compassion could change lives forever, for everyone involved, from that day on. Their lives were forever connected, not by wealth or status, but by trust, gratitude, and a shared understanding of what it meant to care deeply. Ethan, Lily, Emma, and Noah had all been transformed, proving that even the smallest gestures could create ripples of hope, love, and life-changing impact. And as Ethan watched his daughter laugh freely, hugging him tightly, he knew that the world could be changed, one small act at a time.